It's Monday, April 27th, 2026. They missed again. Is Iran the new Ukraine? And a few personal updates. That's next on the AM Update. Back again. Thanks for understanding my absence last week. We'll talk about that at the end of today's episode. But first, really the only story anybody's talking about over the weekend is what went down at what didn't end up being the White House Correspondents Association's dinner. Here's the timeline of events on Saturday evening as a gunman fired shots in the hotel hosting White House Correspondents Association dinner. Around 8:35 Eastern time that night, guests at the Washington Hilton dinner took cover when shots were heard. Video footage emerged showing people dodging underneath tables and chairs and generally trying to get out of there. Several members of the Trump administration, its cabinet, were in attendance as well. Secret Service swarmed the stage, rushed Trump and Vice President Vance off the stage. Sole gunman had rushed, as we came to find out, had rushed a Secret Service checkpoint in a lobby. The suspect charged the Secret Service checkpoint in the lobby and was armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. Later on in the evening, around 9:17 p.m. Eastern Time, Trump made his first comments after the shooting, saying law enforcement acted quickly and bravely. Trump posted on Truth Social the shooter had been apprehended. He recommended the event continue, but at the behest of some of those in law enforcement, they are going to have to reschedule the White House Correspondents Association's dinner. Around 10:30 Eastern Time, Trump addressed the media in a press conference at the White House, accompanied by the director of the FBI and U.S. acting attorney general. Trump and other law enforcement officials said preliminary information suggested the shooter and the suspect was a lone wolf. Around 11:13 in the evening, Jeanine Pirro, U.S. District Attorney for the District of Columbia, told reporters the suspect was being charged with using a firearm in a crime of violence and assault on a federal officer with a dangerous weapon. Who is this shooter? Cole Allen is his name. He attended Caltech. Mechanical engineering, I believe, is what he studied. Now, Caltech, as some people have pointed out, that's not a DEI school. That's not a school that you can just get into, in this individual is black, by the way. This is not just a school you get into because you said the right things or you're on the right part of the intersectionality totem pole. You actually have to be a genius in order to get into this school. Again, authorities said it looked like he had acted alone, so that is interesting. But he also, we learned, had a manifesto. That has been publicly released. We're going to talk about that later on. But first, according to Fox News reporting on Sunday, Cole Allen's brother had notified the New London, Connecticut Police Department of Allen's alleged manifesto. He had sent this manifesto to his family members prior to the incident. Secret Service and Montgomery County Police interviewed Avriana Allen, Allen's sister, at their residence in Rockville, Maryland. Allen said her brother had a tendency to make radical statements, and his rhetoric consistently or constantly referenced a plan to, quote-unquote, do something to fix the issues with the world. Confirmed Allen actually purchased 2 handguns and a shotgun from Cap Tactical Firearms and kept them stored at their parents' house. His sister also said Allen would regularly go to the shooting range to practice, was a part of a group called the Wide Awakes, and attended a No Kings protest in California at some point. So yes, the would-be shooter, is a left-winger. So far as injuries are concerned, nobody died, including this Cole Allen individual. Nobody died. It sounds like a Secret Service agent actually absorbed a gunshot wound, but it was to a bulletproof vest. So it sounds like that Secret Service agent is going to be okay as well. I said earlier in the timeline of events, President Trump on Saturday night actually addressed the media. Here he is being asked a question about whether he's concerned about these types of things happening more frequently, and Trump says, yeah.
Something like this happening
Well, I
again.
can't be concerned. I can only get great people. They did the job, in my opinion, a much better job than Butler. Butler had one weak spot that we all know about. Somebody should have been up there. But even Butler, we had our sniper on our side within 4.2 seconds from a distance of about 400 yards, one shot, and he was gone. And if he didn't do it now, he's David. His name was David. I say, hello, David, every time I see him. David, I like you very much, David. But think of that. Now, if he doesn't hit him, and he hit him right between the eyes from 400 yards without any notice, nobody knew. He heard a sound. he looked over, and there was actually a tree that was somewhat in his way. You know the story very well. And he aimed, he fired, and if he didn't do that, beyond me, you would have had a lot more people killed. We lost one great person and 2 people very badly hurt. They're okay now. But no, that was so. In a sense, you know, that was pretty amazing the job they did. But they did have that 1 weak spot, as you know. They should have had that covered. Tonight they had everything covered very quickly, and he was fast. He was running full blast, and they got him before they got any further. I was very far away. You know, he hadn't anywhere close to breach the doors of the ballroom. The ballroom was sealed. And everybody in there. That's why.
So there's President Trump not sounding super concerned about last night's, or again, as we're talking about this, Saturday night's incident, saying that the would-be shooter was a long ways away. But generally speaking, he says, yes, he is concerned, but he can't let himself get too concerned in his position. So this is a left-winger, according to his sister, who attended a No Kings rally. Again, we'll read the manifesto, at least a portion of the manifesto, a little bit later. And yes, it is confirmed. He confirms it himself that he is a left-winger. So where is he getting his marching orders from? Where? I think you know.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
Biggest terror threat in this country.
So that is just about 30 seconds of a 2.5-minute clip that always makes the rounds when there's a left wing, which there shouldn't be an always makes the rounds when there's a left wing, would-be assassination or an assassination attempt. But that kind of speaks to where we are. What also makes the rounds, or what also speaks to where we are, is that this montage, I believe it's produced by the big right-wing account, End Wokeness. It's not even that recent. The most recent posting of that montage, September 15th of 2024. And I believe it goes back even further than that. I think that was just the most recent posting of that montage of Democrats just, again, stirring up, they know what they're doing, stirring up these radical, unhinged elements within their ranks. Pictures emerged as some of the attendees of the Correspondents Association dinner, as they attempted to leave the Hilton hotel. Protesters out on the street holding up signs. One of them says, death to all of them. Death to tyrants. Again, somebody just tried to carry that out, and that's what they're holding up. That's what the protesters outside are holding up. It broke my heart again. Seeing this video of Erika Kirk. She was in attendance. Erika Kirk was in attendance at the White House Correspondents Association dinner when those shots rang out. And she was seen on video exiting the event in tears, just saying, I want to go home. It's just maddening and sickening. The circumstances that poor woman continually finds herself in. Of course, there was some callback. I don't know if you want to call it PTSD or maybe there's a more precise term. But the horrifying notion that probably went through her head in very rapid succession. I hear gunfire close by. It reminds me of seeing hearing the gunfire on the videos of my husband getting murdered. Oh, those gunshots that I hear now, those are not on a video. Those are happening really here, right now. Where are my children? I imagine that's probably went through her head in rapid succession. So that's enough on what went down at the Hilton Hotel. Another would-be assassination attempt on multiple members of the Trump administration. Fortunately, nobody died. Only one, from what we learned now, minor injury so far. We're going to talk more about this and more about this Cole Allen individual and his manifesto coming up in just a little bit. Let's talk about Iran, though. I have some hard-hitting analysis Late last week, President Trump announced no meeting between the United States and Iran in Pakistan.
You probably heard that we canceled the trip. We have all the cards. We're not going to spend 15 hours in airplanes all the time going back and forth to be giving a document that was not good enough. And so we'll deal by telephone, and they can call us anytime they want. Again, we have all the cards. They have no military left, practically. They have no leaders left. We don't know who the leaders are. Nobody knows who the leaders are. I don't think they know who the leaders are.
See, my analysis is basically what you just heard there from Trump. Maybe for different reasons, maybe a lot different reasons. But here's my hard-hitting analysis on Iran at this point. I have no idea. No idea. I have no idea. Because of what Trump said there. And really, if we're going to be super duper honest here, that's been the reality for like probably 3 weeks now. Now, I really hope that this conflict comes to its conclusion relatively quickly. Actually, really quickly. That would be nice. My analysis of the Iran conflict is basically going to be the price of crude oil, which is still elevated. It's not in the plus $100, dollars per barrel range that we saw at times. But basically, Iran is about to lose if the price of oil comes down. Iran is still kind of gumming things up, not winning, but gumming things up if the price of oil remains elevated per barrel. That's the long and short of my analysis on the Iran conflict, because I'm out of this. Whether this is the new Ukraine or the United States Ukraine, no, it's not. And anybody telling you that is probably maybe just having a bad day, but it's not the Ukraine. Ukraine, nobody knew what was happening ever, as a rule. Like, nobody knew why we were there, what the point was. Not why we were there, why Russia was there. Why are we getting involved ourselves? Now, it turns out maybe there was some benefit in training on some of this next-gen warfare. But it wasn't just fog of war. It was basically the brick wall of war. There was no real dependable information out of Ukraine. When it comes to Iran, though, I think the military success, even if 25% of what we've been told from our own side is true, in what universe would that not be considered a rousing triumph? So I don't think this is America's Ukraine at all. But I do think it's really foggy right now, what's actually happening now and what happens next. When we come back, a little oopsie from Karoline Leavitt. Also, a little funny from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and the manifesto of the White House Correspondents Association dinner would-be shooter, Cole Allen. It's coming up next. Marco Rubio at the White House Correspondents Association's dinner, bringing the jokes.
House Correspondents says, why is this important? You've been to enough of these.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's important or not. I was invited. No, yeah, it's fine. You get to see a lot of people. It's
just brutal honesty there from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Why is the White House Correspondents Association dinner important? I don't know if it's important. I just came because I was invited. This is Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Also, a little whoopsie. She had, again, I say this in jest. Okay, and I'm only saying this because nobody got killed or seriously hurt. But prior to the White House Correspondents Association's dinner, I hate saying that, but it's easier to say than WHCA, like 5 times in an episode like this. Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary, was asked to preview President Trump's speech, which he, of course, didn't end up giving.
Ready to rumble, is he not?
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight.
Uh-oh. Some prescience there from White House press secretary Karoline Leavitt. Well, we played a brief portion of that montage from various Democrats just turning up the temperature over and over again when it comes to political rhetoric in this country. One of the Democrats, for some reason only Allah knows, maybe it's just because he's popular on streaming platforms. And I say Allah, I think apropos in this case, Hasan Piker. I think he's a Twitch streamer, at least used to be a Twitch streamer. He is just the most virulent and rabid leftist. He's also an Islamist as well. He's an Islamunist. He's a much let's just say, on-the-nose version of Zoran Mamdani. And he's been making the rounds with various Democrats recently, mostly at the congressional level from what I've heard, but they're trying to embrace him as the left's Joe Rogan, which I don't think is really possible. The left already can create 6 podcasts and have an audience, because their audience will just say that they are so... Really, the entire country is so tribal right now. Let's just put it that way. The entire country is so tribal that various figures within Democrat mainstream can say, go listen to this podcast, and everybody go listen to it. So there's no such thing as a Democrat Joe Rogan. And I don't think there can be. But anyway, Hasan Piker, he's who they're trying to make into the Democrats or the left's Joe Rogan. This is just a reminder of what they're trying to mainstream in this party. Hasan Piker, the streamer, I invoked this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Listen to this.
Well, my understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their red capitalist bloods, dude.
So that is the Democrats' new darling, Hasan Piker. He's campaigned with Democrats in recent weeks. That's who they're mainstreaming. So it should not be any surprise whatsoever, like what I said earlier, that this is just a recurring, re-racked theme here. Left-winger commits or attempts to commit active violence. Let's remind everybody that Democrat politicians and figureheads have been whipping this type of frenzy up for a number of years. And we just re-rack that every single time it happens. And each time, like the frog in the boiling pot, we just normalize this over and over and over again. Speaking of normalization, I said that you can't get into Caltech unless you're like a genius, and that's true. However, you can be really smart at mechanical engineering. You can possess a great talent for mechanical engineering, as this Alan Cole, or Cole Allen. I'm getting Brian Cole, the alleged DC pipe bomber, and Cole Allen, the alleged DC shooter. I'm getting them mixed up this morning. Cole Allen, mechanical engineer, Caltech, genius. Probably. Doesn't mean you're a genius at worldview. Doesn't mean you're a genius at necessarily picking apart complex moral realities. Doesn't mean that you're necessarily in possession of a societal framework that kind of shapes the way you view the world. You could be a genius at mechanical engineering and a complete and total backwards hillbilly when it comes to some of these issues. Theology, philosophy, what have you. I think this Cole Allen guy fits into that camp. Very smart, but when it comes to matters of existential nature, very stupid. Retarded, even. He released a manifesto, or he put out a manifesto. New York Post got a hold of it and published it. I'm going to read about the first half of it. It's about 1,000 words long. I'm going to read probably less than half of it. Here is Cole Allen's manifesto, breaking down why he did what he tried to do the other night at the White House Correspondents Association dinner. Quote, "Hello, everybody. So I may have given a lot of people a surprise today. Let me start off by apologizing to everyone whose trust I abuse. I apologize to my parents for saying I had an interview without specifying it was for Most Wanted. I apologize to my colleagues and students for saying I had a personal emergency. By the time anyone reads this, I probably most certainly do need to go to the ER, but can hardly call that not a self-inflicted status. I apologize to all the people I traveled next to, all the workers who handled my luggage, and all the other non-targeted people at the hotel who I put in danger simply by being near. I apologize to everyone who was abused and or murdered before this, to all those who suffered before I was able to attempt this, to all who may still suffer after, regardless of my success or failure. I don't expect forgiveness, but if I could have seen any other way to get this close, I would have taken it. Again, my sincere apologies. On to why I did any of this, I am a citizen of the United States of America. What my representatives do reflects on me, and I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. Well, to be completely honest, I was no longer willing a long time ago, but this is the first real opportunity I've had to do something about it. While I'm discussing this, I'll go over my expected rules of engagement, probably in a terrible format, but I'm not on military standards, so too bad. Administration officials, not including Mr. Patel, they are targets prioritized from highest ranking to lowest. Secret Service, they are targets only if necessary and to be incapacitated non-lethally if possible, aka I hope they're wearing body armor because center mass with shotguns messes up people who aren't. Hotel security, not targets if at all possible, aka unless they shoot at me. Capitol Police, same as hotel security. National Guard, same as hotel security. Hotel employees, not targets at all. Guests, not targets at all. In order to minimize casualties, I will also be using buckshot rather than slugs. I would still go through most everyone here to get the targets if it were absolutely necessary. On the basis most people chose to attend a speech by a pedophile, rapist, and traitor, and thus are complicit, but I really hope it doesn't come to that. Cole Allen then goes on to respond to real or imagined rebuttals to what he just wrote there that I read for you. I emphasized this, so it should stick out fairly well here. 55 to 60 instances of first-person pronouns. 55 to 60. That's a rate over 1,000 words in that manifesto of like 8%, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when we're talking about the self, it is, especially when it's framed as some sort of a larger, bigger cause. But that's not what this is about. This is the heart of what leftism, communism, Islamism, this is what it does. It's not about the higher cause, it's about the self, making the self God. You'll notice what he does there and what I just read for you. And I'm reading this. I usually would not read manifestos, but I'm reading this because I think it's instructive that this is a phenomenon that many leftists, I believe, possess. It's not a larger cause. It is the cause of the self, the cause of the mirror. It's the cause of ye be like God. You'll notice what he did. The cause. Hey, I don't want to have my hand stained with allowing a rapist, a pedophile to continue to run this country. The cause is the frame there. But the rest is just him talking about himself. He named victims, people in detention camps, children, fishermen. Can't remember if we read that or if that's in the other part of the manifesto. But it was always in relation to his own moral reasoning. Look how pious and righteous I am. Look at my own very self-assured morality. Now, the objection and rebuttal, which we did not read, something you should note about it as well, or should know about it. Every single objection is not about the morality of it. No, it's about him. The first one is, hey, you're a Christian. Shouldn't you turn the other's cheek? And again, just imagining himself to be some sort of paragon of moral and virtue, that's the first thing he thinks about. He's doing this because he's a Christian. He ends with a thank yous passage, including some of his own students. He's like a substitute teacher or something, or at least he worked as a substitute teacher or a tutor or something in California. He drags his family, his students, everyone who he can possibly think of. But he couches it as a thank you. Thank you to this person. Thank you to that person. Not even thinking about What is that supposed to do for me? If you're a student of this guy, you just learned that your teacher just purchased a shotgun and handguns and knives, stayed at a hotel for the expressed purpose of carrying out a kill list, and now you're being thanked? What is that supposed to do? No, it's just this guy roping as many people as he can into his own id and ego. This is the heart of leftism. It is ye be like God. Cole Allen couched this entire thing. He couched this entire thing as being part of some bigger cause. But that's not what he actually wrote. The cause was him. The cause was, look at me. The cause of, look how cool I am. Look at me. I'm the people we've been waiting for. And that's why I wanted to read that this morning and point out a few of those things to you. Let's get to this. We're running low on time. You may have noticed a little bit out of practice. A little all over the map this morning, to some degree. There's only really one story that has been dominating over the weekend. And so we spent, of course, the lion's share of time talking about that. I don't like, we're going to go from talking about the id and ego to now I'm going to talk about myself. And I try not to do that too much on this show. Sorry, I'm taking drinks of water, Marco Rubio style here. Try not to talk about myself too much. What I've repeated is that let's just get right to the content. Minimal introduction, tease, intro for like 10 seconds, and then we're right to the content. No boilerplate information. You know, I ask for reviews and stuff once a week on Fridays in the second segment, not off the top of the show, normally speaking. And I don't even say who I am until the very end. The last thing you hear is, I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update. So I don't like talking about myself much. But I think we need to talk about a couple of different things here. And let's just take these in chronological order. There have not been many episodes of the AM Update recently. It's been very sporadic. And a big part of that is the ongoing, for now, going on 8 months, issues I've had with my podcast host, Liberated Syndication. And the way that I think about this podcast is I'm providing, I hope, something of value for you to listen to first thing in the morning, to get you caught up to on stories you need to know from my own kind of unique perspective, kind of maybe not, but at least it's a perspective that's maybe not broadly available. So I see it as a service. I try to take my own editorializing out of it as much as I can, at least in the first segment, maybe a little bit more as things go on. So I try to provide something of value for you. So there's the value for you. You're trading your time to listen to this podcast. Now, where the value comes from me is that I'm able to monetize it, and my host is one of the few platforms that I know, because I've been able to monetize it through programmatic advertising for years now. It's one of the only hosts that I know can do this for me. So that's where the value comes from me. I'm trading my time to provide a good product for you, and my family gets a little extra income. So that has been the hang up when it comes to switching podcast hosts. So I'm saying this because a lot of people have asked, hey, why don't you just switch podcast hosts? It's more complicated than that, because this is a core part of the value for me. So I've had these issues with my podcast host not allowing me to just publish episodes. For going on 7 or 8 months, the biggest point of friction is not actually doing the content, it's actually distributing it, which should be the least amount of friction. It's really simple syndication, RSS. I think that's what it stands for. It's a technology that's been around almost as long as the internet. So that's been one thing. So that affected a couple weeks ago my ability to do this show, put it out there at all. So that's why I was gone a couple of weeks ago. I do think I found some workarounds now, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. I said last Monday that I would be back on Tuesday with some housekeeping. I was going to update you on that, what I just told you. I think I found a workaround. It's more work. It is really annoying, but I think I found a consistent workaround to be able to get this this show up every single day. If you've listened to AM Update for a while, you would have heard late last year I was out for a few days as well because my wife and I were eagerly anticipating the coming of our third child, and in between trimesters 1 and 2, had another checkup and found that we lost that baby. That was late last year. Monday, same thing, same checkup. 13, 14 weeks in. Everything was going fine. We thought we had some answers for maybe why the last time happened. And same thing. We lost another baby last week. So that's why I was gone. That's why I was gone last week. So I would appreciate your prayers. 2 in a row like that is just, it's just rough. Just really rough. So pray for Bella, pray for me, that I'd be able to continue to lead this family that God has given me and given us in a way that honors him. But I just want to let you know, in case you were wondering, hey, there's one episode. Aaron said he'd be back on Tuesday. Excuse me. So many edits today because, like I said, I'm out of practice. Basically, for the last week and a half, I've not talked much at all. So in case you were wondering why I was out again last week, that was the reason. And even if I had tried to do episodes, I'm really good at compartmentalizing, both for this and for my day job. I just wasn't going to be able to do that last week. So I appreciate you understanding. Again, I'm taking a lot of liberty here. I don't like talking about myself for anybody who cares. Because of all of the problem that I've had, trying to publish episodes and things like that. I'll be honest with you, a few weeks ago, I was about ready to quit. Just completely throwing the towel on this. I can't justify doing that because there is enough of an audience that it is worth my while when it actually works. So I was kind of at a point where it's either I double down or I quit altogether. So I'm doubling down as we continue to move forward after a really difficult last week. By this summer, I'm hoping to have a video aspect to the AM Update that will be on YouTube. So those are kind of what I promised in last Tuesday's housekeeping. Kind of a longer version of that. I was hoping to give a much different update than this one, particularly on the second matter. But I would appreciate everybody's prayers. It was a rough week. It was a rough week last week. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening this morning. All 34 minutes of this did not intend to go this long. So not only am I out of practice, I'm actually experimenting right now with video, which means I'm completely discombobulated right now. Out of practice, doing a new practice, that is a recipe for going 34 minutes, apparently. Hope you have a wonderful Monday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.